which sketch of the Amanda Show is like the sketch that like has your heart?
Let's do it. It's got to be the Judge Trudy. I mean, all
Yes.
of them are perfect. And actually, no, I actually am rescinding that. It's the girls' room. That was formative.
How
Um,
so?
the girls' room was like, okay, so there was truly a time where like I remember being on like the middle school playground forcing friends to reenact the girls' room sketches. And I was, of course, the one that liked eggs because
Yeah.
that was the role, frankly.
Yeah. There's, if you're not going to at least put the work into the role, then like, why even try? Why even
Yeah.
try?
I mean, she had the range. She liked eggs, end of sentence. So yeah. But the girls' room sketches, perfection.
The girls' room sketches slaps, and it's crazy because you think about that whole journey that Nickelodeon took from like, did it start with the Amanda Show, or like did it start with all that? Because like it was Amanda Show, and Drake and Josh were in that, and then they made Drake and Josh, and then they made iCarly, and then like from iCarly they made like also Victorious, but then like they just threw those into one show when Miranda Cosgrove was like, nah, I'm good, and made that into Sam and Cat, and like then Zoe 101 was along the way. It's like quite the odyssey of like television. Nobody talks about it, but like what a chain
Yeah.
reaction.
Man, what a dynasty. Like I've heard some gross stuff about that the guy who created it.
The toad,
Terrible.
yeah, no, I don't
But
fuck with that. That's so weird. I really have never understood that shit. Like, I don't know, feet are fucking good. Just no, I'm
not for
good.
me either. Yeah, not getting it.
That's
But he did
unfortunate.
make great shows, unfortunately, that were
Give a lot
formative
of
for
people
me.
their start. Uh, but but no, I what's unfortunate about that is I actually have a cousin named Dan Schneider, and he's not in
No.
show business. He's like totally normal, and that's all we'll say about him because that's probably all he wants to be said at this point. When a man like that,
Man, I hope he's not like in the shoe business or something. That would be unfortunate for him.
nah, he's smarter than that.
Good for
Um,
him.
exactly. And 2000s hip hop, what slapped? Because also, let's like be honest about this. Like this podcast for me is like me socializing with people I fuck with, and like so many times, like when we're in these Zoom rooms, like we gotta just get shit done. So we don't really have time for like my loud mouth to like talk to people, but here we do. So yeah, what's your 2000s hip hop?
Yeah. Before I jump into like who is in my mind for this, I just want to say that it's truly so weird because, as the listeners may or may not know, you are in this show and you are fantastic. And we literally don't get to talk at all. Like there's no Starbucks runs, there's no hanging by a water cooler because we're on Zoom and like it's nice to just chat with you. But Missy Elliott for me was, I mean, there's
Mm.
many people I could have named, but Missy Elliott was like, she was everything. She's still everything, but she was like truly everything in that
that
time.
that early shit, people forget. People just think of like we run this Missy Elliott now, and she like paved the way in so many ways for so many of like the hip hop artists that exist now, like Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion, who like sort of took note from Beyonce, but like also like are just like people who are like bigger too. And obviously I fuck with that heavy. I've That's one of the things Brian and I are. I won't go too much into that specific play because he's developing it, but there's a play that's being worked on about like it sort of deals with like queerness and like size and like the exercise culture around that, and it is just, it hits all those places, but that's just about men. There's so much about like what exercise culture and like what pop culture does to women, and the frame that like it does. So Missy Elliott just making her own music and like making that shit slap.
Yeah, like, people really had a lot to say about, Missy and how she looked then and looks now. And, you know, she was putting out absolute hits. So I don't know if she really gave a shit at all, but
She certainly
was
doesn't look
incredible.
like she did, if she did. But what's so great about all that early times in our lives is that like so much of the music we heard was so formative to like all of the like new discoveries we're making in music now. Like I definitely don't think that like without Christina Aguilera there'd be like a Dua Lipa for people to TikTok to, or like we just said, like without, I don't think Cardi B would be around without Missy Elliott or like Lil Kim or any of those people from that fucking era. I remember like I was like 5 years old and I would like fall asleep to like Mark Anthony's album, and like Dima Lowe would just always be like putting me to sleep at like 10:30 at night. And Faith Hill, that's like not,
Faith
I'm not
Hill.
proud to say that that was like in that
No,
same.
be proud. Be proud to
Yeah.
say Faith Hill. She makes some good music.
Is that her?
Her.
Kiss this.
I think
Is
so.
that her? Sounds
That's
like her.
timeless.
You know, it really is that same boombox I used in the show that I actually used to fall asleep to. I'm remembering now. Yeah.
That thing is a
Fucking
tank.
crazy.
That thing is
God.
going for a long time. Yeah, no, I totally get that. I feel like all that music is coming back around and it's like cool again. Like my brother is college aged. He's God, what year is he in? He's a junior in college. And so like always makes me feel old and uncool. But he was introducing me to Pop Smoke, who I now know of. And he was like, you would like this. You would really like him because he like is a huge fan of like 50 Cent. And he's literally playing songs where he's like sampling 50s music. And I know they like collabed and stuff. And I'm like, everything like we grew up with is now like, especially in music, is coming back around again. And I'm like, we're ancient.
And it's coming back in different ways too, like especially in those people's careers. Like you look at Nick Jonas then, and it took him so long to be Nick Jonas now. That's like way later also. That's like we're 12 or 13. What we're talking about is like really like 7 or 8. Like we're in the back seat and we hear shit on the radio, or we hear shit on the boombox. Yeah.
I feel like they were like right at the tail end of stuff, because I remember them being like maybe sort of emerging. Maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like they were sort of emerging like toward the tail end of those 2000s.
Oh, the Joe Bell?
Yeah. And like I remember being like, no, I'm above the Jonas Brothers. I'm too, I don't really like them. That's not my style. Like, meanwhile, secretly listening to like Burning Up, like no one needs to know. Yeah. But yeah, God, totally different than who they are now.
I remember Kevin Jonas came into my workplace about like a year ago, and everybody was bugging out. A year ago, 3 years ago, because like I forget there was a pandemic. It still feels like April 2020. Like it feels like this is my first episode of this podcast.
It really does.
But honestly, I was stunned because like they brought these people up to Trolls the Experience. That's where I worked in New York. I don't know if you're in Brooklyn, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we had Trolls the Experience for 2 years. You had your shot, Alyssa, but you missed it. I
don't know what none of those words are calculating for me.
There's a movie called Trolls, because I actually never.
Trolls, yeah. Okay.
I never actually saw this movie, so I hear you. I like could never actually bring myself to understanding, and like it was just a walkthrough experience, and I worked in like a like hair salon for these trolls. It like feels so crazy to say, but it was very real for like a very long time of my life. And all these celebrities sometimes would come through. So Kerry Washington came through one time, and I was like, hey, so sir, you can choose that or that. What do you want? Huge fan. Like I could not, but I did. I held myself together. But Kevin Jonas,
you were putting troll hair on people?
I was helping them pick it out, and then they would go over from the waiting room where I helped them pick this shit out. They would go to a salon where these face makeup people would make them into the troll, depending on, they would get a half face if they got a headband, a whole face if they got a wig. And
wow.
Yo, all I remember is I sold so much weed in the closet of where we held the wigs. And like there was a lot of just crazy hierarchical bullshit that was happening too with this place. But we could talk about that forever. Let's talk about your play, what you're here to talk about. Tell us about Off White or the Arab House Party.
House party. Yeah. This play came from, I was literally on the train on my way pre-pandemic, obviously, to pitch a play for this theater company I was working with. I won't name them because they ended up being pretty terrible. But I was on my way to pitch this like very important and very buttoned up like play that I thought was going to be like so life changing. And I saw this guy on the train and he had a snapback on, and I had this unbelievable urge to just take it and wear it and walk around with it because that's like what you did. Like that was like
Yes.
such a thing. And I was like, I need to write a play about the 2000s that's at a house party. And like, I don't know what
Mm.
it's going to be about, but I know it's going to be about 9/11 because I'm Arab and that's what we write about. Like it's, it was a fascinating and terrible time. Um, and so I was like, I just want to write like a really fun play that's about a 2000s house party with all the like little things that people will be able to pick up about it. And I want it to feel like you made a mix CD and you're like sitting there listening to a mix CD. So that's kind of where that came from. And yeah,
Wow, I love the description of it that you guys put to that it is this post 9/11 Mean Girls, except it's about anti-Arabism and it takes place in a limited two fever dream. I'm fucking
it's
dead.
very that.
Was
I
that your log
honestly,
line?
I honestly don't remember, so I don't want to take it away from them. So I'm going to go ahead and say, shout out Breaking and Entering. Maybe it was all them. I don't remember.
You know, breaking and entering always seemed dope. I remember like I did a rooftop reading with them 2 years ago, and they seemed like such healthy people. And based on the people I knew from another company that were involved with breaking and entering, I was like just so surprised at like how how ambitious they were, but also like how they were able to deliver what they wanted. And doing this during a pandemic is like a prime example of that. Like the fact that anybody get as a emerging player gets any shit done at all, it's like a fucking miracle. Those people who don't even want to watch these Zoom plays, who've been seeing theater for 30 years, they could not do the shit we're trying to do. That's
Yeah,
like
this is
literally,
crazy.
yeah.
This is crazy what they're doing. I mean, they're really ambitious is like a great description for that. They are like, there's nothing you could say to Breaking and Entering that they're not like down to try or down to do, or they will figure out a way to make happen. So I hope if you're out there listening, and you're like, I'm so sick of Zoom theater. I can't wait to, be out in the real world. Watch these plays anyway, because they're not your typical Zoom theater.
Exactly. I definitely am surprised at like how much they were able to thread together these plays into something that is not just fucking the boxes and that's it. Like there's so much more that we can accomplish than we realize. Even if we're not people that know how to edit shit, like we're not Marty Scorsese, we have to figure it out somehow. And like I think the way that they banded together and like collaborated with those designers who like worked with me to get that like perfect angle from like my webcam. God, what incredibly resilient people they are.
Yeah, they took some of the most talented people in theater right now and brought them on their team. So it's been really exciting to work with everybody and put together, sort of weave together this like Zoom play that you think is just going to basically be a reading and just have everybody be so on board to basically make it a movie. I mean, that's sort of what it is now. It's been very cool.
How have how has this story changed from like before to now? I mean, were you writing it for Zoom for the most part?
No,
Yeah,
not at all. I've been
because
like
who would?
actively avoiding Zoom theater too. Like, and
What
I
did
started
you
it pre-pandemic.
what did you think was going to happen like with it?
I mean, with the play for Breaking and Entering, or like the play in general.
The play in general.
Oh, I think it's going to be like on Broadway. No, I don't. But like, I think it should be because I think it'd be a great freaking time. But I don't know. I just was writing it at the time. I had to pitch a full length play for this theater company. And so I was like, oh, I'm just going to write this and we'll do a reading with them. And then, like, I wrote it so quickly, which for me is not a thing that happens. It's like pulling teeth. And this just sort of came out. And I realized I did not want this theater company reading it. So I've just been sort of holding it and waiting for a place where I was like, I feel like it's going to be a good fit. And Breaking and Entering, like you said, does such cool work. Like the rooftop reading series to me is like, I don't know, that's just like cool Brooklyn stuff. I'm like, ooh,
Exactly.
it's like an Aperol spritz of theater. I just think it's like so like fun. So yeah, I knew that they would do a good job with it.
And there are definitely those theater artists too that now that everything is happening virtually, it's actually, and I've heard this from my friend Elong, who said it for like American theater in some fucking article he wrote. He was like, Zoom is actually like so much more convenient for like developing plays and holding these readings because like it used to be that like nobody would like get on their computer and like read a play over a webcam before this. We would all have to
Yeah.
find a room somewhere and like find a place to like congregate to read the play and talk about it. But in terms of like developing work, there's all sorts of obstacles that we and hurdles you all have to go through to like really like stitch this together. That's a different thing though. Like for developing work for like new playwrights, it's actually very convenient that like we're sort of resigning in a way to creating work in a virtual space and like to talk about it. It's just I think it makes things a lot easier. It takes out a middleman.
Yeah, definitely. And I feel like you're able to do more things. Like I've been busier probably in the last couple months than I was pre-pandemic because you have to either like I feel like A, companies are doing more things, and B, you have the availability. Like I'm working from home. I'm also in rehearsals, like, and then you could pop off and go to like, I'm working with the shelter right now, their theater, like you could pop off and run there and not have to like cross town or whatever. It's just nice to be able to, especially if you're in a development mode right now. And if you have work that you're not like, this is done and I'm putting it in a drawer. Um, it's, I'm not saying I'm like living for it and that I don't want to go back. I'm truly tomorrow. Let's like, I'm ready. But yeah, it's been helpful for sure.
It absolutely has. And like in terms of going back, I really like I got a little hint last week of like going out with more than like 4 people for the first time since like December. That happened in April. And mostly it's not because I'm paranoid, it's because my parents are paranoid and I'm trying to be considerate of their paranoia because I am living here for free and like don't have to pay for my own shit. So in a time like this, like I'll make that compromise and seeing people, that's sort of my whole divide with everything I've learned from COVID. It's like, yes, seeing you is incredible. But then like I also want to remember all the little things I learned in quarantine and all that shit. Because
Yeah.
there's stuff for it. What did you learn from all this? That's still going on,
Um,
by the way. I'd like to imply I'm not like being like Florida, let's go.
yeah, you and me were like, open it up. No, I'm actually like kind of deathly terrified because my family has been pretty sick. They're thankfully like okay now, but like, I've learned that I don't know. Do you want like a thing that's like I've learned about the human race, or like what I've learned about like what I won't go back to in terms of like.
Okay, so like let's start with the human race and then let's get over there because like I want to hear about this.
I don't want to be a bummer, but like I'm also planning a wedding right now. So I think that's
Oh my God, for who?
For me.
Oh my God,
I don't
you're getting married.
Yeah, I'm getting married. My fiance and I are getting married in October. We placed that date pre-pandemic. We actually got engaged like 2 weeks before quarantine started. So
wow.
I think it was a universe test. But so we're planning a wedding, which means it's now been a question of like everyone we know, like who is vaccinated, who's not. And it makes you like, I guess what I've learned is maybe you don't know the people in your life as well as you think you do, which is kind of a, bummer thing to bring to the podcast. But I think it's a good thing because, COVID, I feel like has been such I don't know, I feel like it's been a ethics test for a lot of people. But yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's like that shit that Michael R. Jackson said about how like it just basically like exposed all the inequities in the world. And it really did, like not in a poetic way either. It was quite literal how it all went down. And basically, I really do think that we've all learned things about like what we have to tolerate and what we don't, basically. And I've learned that I don't have to tolerate being mistreated by like institutions. And like if people hear that shit, like for the random ass people that do hear all of these episodes, they'll be like, this motherfucker again. But they don't realize that like most podcasts actually like talk about very specific similar things multiple times over all their episodes, especially like when you talk to people. But yeah, I definitely don't think that we need to worry about like getting in good with institutions and shit. It's in fact quite the opposite. I realize all I give a shit about in my entire life for the rest of my career is working with people I fuck with. And I found like a side hustle and a source of income that I could probably be successful with for the rest of my life. And for me, this like immediacy culture that Instagram and social media has created with like getting big, getting like I don't fucking care. I don't give a shit. I don't mind like peaking when I'm like 47 or like Christoph Waltz, like just popping in when I'm like 64 into this industry and being like, psych, yo. Like I don't care. Like it's much more for me, I guess, and maybe that's just getting older too, and realizing that like this like adolescent aspirational energy is fleeting. You gotta like sort of see where you're at in a way that actually gives you the satisfaction of the life you've created for yourself. Yeah,
definitely. I feel like obviously we live in a capitalist society, and so every industry has some sort of feeling of like, I gotta make it, I gotta do this by this time, and I gotta be the best that I could be. And but the arts are just theater is just so rampant with that. It's like you need to be successful before you even graduate with like a BFA. Like, and I mean, it's like crazy. There's no time to grow and, learn your voice. And actors, y'all, good for you guys. I don't know, that just having someone, at least when people judge writers, they do it mostly quietly. Like they just send you the rejection. Like actors, I don't know how you guys do it. That's pretty brutal stuff.
I mean, it feels very public to us. I'll tell you that. Like, I think when it feels like it's happening to you, part of you is like, wow, this can't be happening to anybody else. There's no way. But I feel like everybody has different levels of like what they want or where they want to be. And all these like TikTok musical theater kids who are like software engineers now, like more power to you. Like keep doing that shit. I just also remember from like being 16 years old and like seeing Vine and like Yik Yak that like
Fine.
that shit. It's just like there were people that were like huge on there. It's like where are they at? Like there's the fucking guy who like would chase down random animals pretending to be TMZ, and he's
Oh
like,
my God,
"What's the
yeah.
alimony? TMZ," and like chasing a pigeon, and it's just like, wow, that guy really was on top of the world in his own way, and like
The
I
pigeon
true
guy.
yeah, I don't think we need that shit. Now, what did you learn from the pandemic for yourself? Right? That was the other question.
Yeah, I think so. I'm literally never going to go back to not cleaning my groceries. Like, I am
Mm.
going to wipe down a bag of chips every day until I die. Um, I think now it's just habit. I don't know what. I don't think I could stop. What's your thing? I'm very curious.
What have I learned for myself from the pandemic? I guess that like motivation to do anything really doesn't you can't wait for it to strike really because
Oh, that one's
motivation
good.
and perseverance won't be there for you. It's just not it's not something you can rely on, so you have to create it for yourself. And even when like you're feeling at your worst, let's use this self like this fucking self tape, sure, like you could be like, why am I doing this? And exactly the thing I was talking to you about before, I was like, this doesn't feel right, I don't know why I'm sending this, and it'll be fine. And then I was very resentful because my representation was just like, this is the best one you've ever made. And I'm like, fuck you. This feels so wrong to do. And then, like, what happened happened. And ultimately, I realized you just have to, you have to find your own fuel, and you have to fuel yourself. And you can't be fueled by everything you see on social media. And I also learned to ask questions a lot more. And like what my soapbox has been lately has been like, I'm never gonna post a square just because everybody else is posting the square, and it's about like how bad racism is. And I think you have to ask like a little more questions than like just posting a fucking square in solidarity with something. I think like it goes a little more into like what I think about it and like what I can actually do, not just like what I can say. Because adding to like that thing works, but like as we've seen with, I mean, I'll just with We See You What, like that shit like erupted on itself, and there's nothing that any social media fad there's I don't think there's many good things that come from social media fads. That's not Now, I'm not saying that's never the case. There are institutional changes that have made the world safer because of like people being like, that shit was bullshit, and I'm totally for that. But just blindly going with the herd, I guess, is something that I'm not ever gonna do again. That's what I
That
learned.
was a much better answer than wiping down groceries.
It didn't feel like a better answer. I ramble on this
Much
fucking
better.
thing. It's also crazy because this is the first episode I've actually done in like months on end. I just like got distracted with other things, and like as soon as I like sort of saw um like breaking and entering just posting shit, I was like, I want to talk to people again, like
Yeah.
because it's just really important that like despite everything you're feeling and despite like whatever the world puts against you, you just gotta like keep doing the shit you created. That's I mean, have you do you ever face those obstacles specifically with writing, or is it very much oh word okay good.
Yeah. I mean, I literally, the minute we wrapped filming, I was like, I went from literally us doing this all day, every day, our filming stuff and being in design meetings and feeling very busy and whatever. And then the day we wrapped, I was like, I'm a fraud and we'll never work again. And like, this is it. And like that, I just think it's like the nature of the beast, like, and what we were saying about how you have to constantly be doing things. It's like, even if you're constantly doing things, you feel like there needs to be more. But I'm over that, so no worry.
No, you know what I'm starting to realize, because now I'm getting busy again. I didn't tell you this, but as we were filming, like one of the last things, I think it was while I was like singing Gold Digger, I got an offer to do virtual theater every week for the month of April. So I don't know how I'm gonna do it this week, but like we basically are rehearsing every day, and it's going to be like a play inspired sitcom series, or no, excuse me, a sitcom inspired play series. That's what it is. So it's like 3 episodes. It's called Primetime Theater, and it's really it's exactly what we've been doing, but they're gonna like edit shit into like the live show. I don't know how the fuck they're gonna do all this shit, but like I'm very excited for it, and I think what I did with you guys is like very much a training ground for me to like sort of enter back into like acting and showing myself to like new people, and like not being like not just working with the people I want to work with. It's important to like put yourself out there randomly, and like Chloe Hyatt is the reason like I submitted. I just saw that and I was like, fuck it, I have no reason not to do this. These people are great. So yeah, it just definitely, I don't even remember where I fucking started with this shit, but yeah, I definitely was grateful for that experience, just because it really gave me a sense of like there's no real, the pandemic can be an excuse for so long, you know.
Yeah,
you just need to kind of keep doing shit ultimately and keep showing yourself.
I hear that. That's going to be a really cool series. I know, I'm pretty sure my friend Nina Key, I think she's writing on that, right?
Oh,
She's a dope playwright. She does like some really cool, fantastical
ooh.
theater. She does some awesome stuff. So yeah, that'll be a cool series. I'm pretty sure she's a part of that.
You know, Key, she is.
Yeah,
She's on the other
that's
one.
going to be a cool series.
Oh my god. Yeah. And the people are just great. These are like people from like from Brooklyn, but like also from Oakland and from all over the US. And like the more you just throw yourself into situations you don't know. It's another thing I learned in the pandemic. Discomfort is like, it can be nutritious, but it has to be measured. You know, you can't just like sort of throw yourself into constant discomfort. It's just not great. And then the other thing I wanted to like ask you about was like, what specifically got you into playwriting from like whatever you were doing as theater? Like I assume like everybody starts acting, but then like why did you start writing?
I actually, it's so random. I was when I was in my undergrad, I was there studying history, and I was trying to be a lawyer, which is like absolutely insane. I cry when I argue. I also get insanely mad when I argue. I would have been atrocious. I can't remember anything. I would have been a terrible lawyer.
What law did you want to study?
So I don't know. I don't know. I didn't know. I like had no clue. I was just like, that'll be the thing.
Okay.
And like, you know, I would have been bad because my Arab father was like, that's not the route. Like, and my mom begged me to go into writing because she was like, you're not gonna like this. And I didn't. And so like when I was about to graduate, I was like, this is not the move. And I was watching so much SNL at the time. I was going back and watching literally all the past episodes. And I was like, I should do comedy. Everyone was always like, you're funny. And I know I'm not. being funny right now, so that's pressure. But and I was like, I should do comedy. What a stable career. And so I started doing like improv and stand up. And I was like, that's not really the route for me. I've always been a good writer. So I talked to a professor, I tacked on a writing minor, and I was like, I'm going to write sketches and I'm going to write TV. And so he was like, you need to write a pilot and submit it to grad school because you need to go to grad school. He wasn't paying for it. I don't know why he suggested that, but he was like, you need to go to grad school, and here are the 3 options. And it was like NYU, Columbia, probably the new school, I don't remember. And then Columbia's application was like unbelievable, so I ignored it. And then I just submitted to NYU and like thankfully got in. And when I was there, this is such a long-winded, boring story, but when I was there, they had us study all 3 mediums: film, TV, and play. And I was like, playwriting? Like, absolutely not. I don't wear scarves. I hate Shakespeare. Like, fuck that. And then I fell in love with it. I thought it was like,
you fell in love with Shakespeare?
No, I still don't understand Shakespeare.
Okay. Yeah. For sure.
But we had free tickets to go see Hand to God. Did you ever see that?
I was in Hand to God. I love Hand to God.
You were in Hand to God? Oh my God, so good. It was literally the first play I ever saw other than watching like Legally Blonde the musical, like on YouTube.
Wow.
The best. But I saw Hand to God and I was like, oh, you could be funny and dark on stage and like you could do whatever you want in the format. Like, that's for me. And then I took a playwriting class with Nikki Silver, and that was like all she wrote.
Well, that'll do it. Oh my God. Nikki Silver is like out of fucking mind. I read like Rhinoceros when I was in college, and I was like, God damn. Like, it's the same shit that inspires me too. I remember like even being in Hand to God, it's just so malleable, and also kind of a challenge for an actor, because especially like when it's not like there's room for space, and even like what you've written actually gives more space than what like Hand to God is. It's very like a pen to paper kind of play as a production, and you have to hit every beat like pretty much right, or like it's gonna look sketchy. Because like I didn't even play the kid in it. I played like Pastor Greg in college. So like specifically with that role, like your job is to be pretty much like the straight man who also is like thirsty, but like he's a prick. So like there's a rigidity and a challenge, and to like sort of mastering the structuring comedy as like an actor in a play, especially when the words are like the words. But I mean, quite frankly, I like when people write the way you do, with like less of rigidity, and like I definitely think that is sort of, we've seen it more and more in the past couple of years, like with Fairview and like A Strange Loop, and even Slave Play, like the discomfort of like creating dark comedy. It just really, it meshes well when it comes to like telling really important stories, which brings us back to Off-White. Like literally so much of what that moment leads up to is that moment with the nose, which I won't spoil. Y'all are just gonna have to see what I'm talking about. But I think it definitely is so well earned by like the joy that you created throughout the show, of like the chaos between like sort of prepping for this party as a teenager, and like the like very casual Islamophobia. And that was one thing I appreciated, like you being right away like, we can't look at this like through the lens of today. We have to just like assume that like they were who they were and they didn't know better, and that will make it more palatable in so many ways. That was hard for me to realize it.
Yeah, I feel like you really wanted to like save these people, and I get that urge. That means like I think that's a good thing. You had, to be fair to you, you had the most irredeemable character in the play.
Yeah.
And like, you know, like that character like grew up to like run his dad's business or something. Like he's definitely doing just fine. But yeah, but I knew people like that, and I still know people like that. And like, you know, it's been funny with this new like Taylor Swift, you know, album coming back out again. And you know, I grew up a big Swiftie and still am. And you know, when Fearless came out, when that album came out, everybody attributed a song to like a person. And so like Hey Steven in my high school was about this one guy who happened to be one of my best friend's brothers. And everyone was like obsessed with him and thought he was like the bee's knees, but I never did, because he was like so racist to me. And probably I didn't experience a whole bunch of that growing up, because it was more microaggression-y, just things that I would think of now because I am so white passing and I'm only half Arab. And you know, but this was a person who thought that this sort of thing was hilarious, to like call me a camel jockey every day. And so it's fine. It's all good. I've grown from it. He's a very nice person now. I'm sure he has grown from it, but that was the time period. People didn't, you know, people thought that that sort of thing was like hilarious, and they weren't introspective about that stuff.
Yeah. And it's not even just what he says, it's what my character wears too. Not to just like make this the Josh podcast.
It is the Josh podcast now. A star is Josh.
Ew, a Josh is bored.
Wow. Josh is bored.
I can't. God, let me know when you make the spinoff. But for real, like, I definitely was so impressed with like how you were able to just let this play be what it was, and how the more we did it, the more it was in our bodies, leaving it. It sounds like such a typical theater thing to say, but like the more we distance ourselves from like these things that we're now taught to be very passionate about, and that really just like really alert us to like crazy behavior. Like I definitely appreciated that putting it at a distance taught us a lot more about it. And like I'm just very excited for like a lot of people to see this play and see it flourish and all that. And I'm very excited for it. So I'm gonna give everybody the real information on the low. Not very on the low. It's like pretty much right here. Friday, April 16th at 6:30 p.m. Check out bethrowco.org/festival right here. Greg will put it in right here. And that's your first time to catch it. It's Friday, April 16th at 6:30 p.m. and Saturday at 8 o'clock. That's Friday at 6:30. Saturday at 8 o'clock. And I'm just so excited for everybody to see you. And do you want to talk a little bit about what you're doing with the Incubator New Play Festival?
Sure. Well, first I want to say I hope people see the play for many reasons, but I hope that they see you in the play because you're really fun in it.
I hope
really fun in it.
I hope they see the play for so many more reasons, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're so fun in it. You really, oh my God, I can't wait.
So self-conscious doing it too. Like my family still doesn't.
Role.
It's a cringy role for sure. But imagine the only room that had all the requirements the designers needed was my living room, which was just open to everybody in the house. Like there's no walls in my house, and I couldn't do it here because this is a baseball stadium of a wallpaper, and there's nowhere else to go. And my family heard all of that, and they were just like so many times my mom was like, "Are you okay?" because I kept falling. And it was just very, they still don't understand why I need a blank background, because they put photos up everywhere and they're like, why do you need, I don't understand. Can't you just do it in front of like a black television? I'm like, no. Can't you do it in front of a door? It's like, it just doesn't work that way. And whatever. But yeah, I hope people do see it too. And what is this thing you're working on at the Incubator New Play Festival?
Yeah, it's with Art House Productions. We were part of the, myself and the rest of my cohort was part of the 2019-2020 cohort. We were supposed to have our readings last May, and we were like, we'll do it in a month. And now it's a year later, so we're doing them online. We're doing them also with the 2020/2021 cohort. I have not heard those plays, but those writers are amazing. And my play is going to be directed by Ryan Dobrin, as you mentioned. He's really great. And it's called the Ancestry.com play. It is a play in which 3 characters who are all friends all take a DNA test, and it impacts their identity. The main character is an Arab American female named Samia. She has never met her father, and so has always had questions circulating about her identity. And it kind of covers that, as well as her relationship with her mother, Mary, who is a very Orthodox Christian religious woman, very my grandma, and she's fab. And I hope that you'll come. It's also a comedy. So yeah. Come to my website for details, whatever. I don't know.
It's Alyssa Haddad.org? .com.
Oh,
AlyssaHaddad.com. Wonderful. Yeah. And by the way, one thing that this play did forever change in me is like, I have a new like love of my hair and like styling it with a headband. I've bought 5 headbands since this production, and I don't think I'm gonna give up my hair anytime soon. And I'm not exactly sure when this is going to end, when this is going to stop, because it's like I literally just sort of look like a vegetable. Like my hair looks like a vegetable with like its own thing. And I hope that this play inspires fashion from all of its audience viewers. Anything else you can think of?
I just hope everyone also gets really into headbands by the end of this play. I hope that's my mark on the world.
It's just like CNN. Everybody's wearing headbands. We don't know why.
We don't know why.
It's because their plates about. Oh man. Well, thank you so much for doing this, Alyssa. This is so dope. You are very dope, and I hope you continue to write dope-ass plays such as this. I hope it gets to be produced somewhere on a stage. Is that so much to ask? It is, please. I guess.
Keith, thank you so much for having me. This was a blast, and, thanks for being in the play. And I hope you'll be in many more of my plays.
I would love that. Thank you.